Hello, so this is my presentation on hallucinations. And my question for this is how, when, and why do hallucinations occur to people, and who can experience hallucinations? Now, my first study that I go into is correlates of hallucinatory experiences in the general population. Now, in this study, they basically found out that in previous studies of cognitive mechanisms underlying hallucinatory experiences, that they have yielded inconsistent results. And so this group of researchers wanted to learn more about hallucinatory experiences. And by using different approaches, they're trying to figure out how hallucination really works. Some of these different methods are listed in here along with the hypotheses, as each hypothesis goes directly with a specific method unless it's with hypothesis 6, which is basically just comparing online data with in-lab data. Now, hallucination associations have been mainly associated with people who have schizophrenia or psychiatric disorders. However, they can also happen in general people and people who are not diagnosed at all. Now, the aim of their study was to group participants who have hallucinatory experiences and collect a large enough sample size in order to detect even the smallest effect sizes of their samples. Now, in their sample size, they had a pre-register of 420 lab-based and 800 online people. However, in their final sample size, they got 1,513 people, but over 100 people in that sample size was redacted after the exclusion criteria was implemented. Now, this goes into more of the specifics into how they really categorized everybody, and they basically just got the mean of these specific things for each person. Now, the questionnaires they use are these 5 specific ones, and they use these because they're easily answerable, and thus they acted as an intention check. Now, participants were excluded from all data analysis if they incorrectly answered more than one attention check question. Most participants reported few hallucinatory experiences, and a small number of participants reported many hallucinatory experiences when it came to these. Now, this goes into more of the data and the final category, and I will go into the results in a moment. So, in hypothesis 4 and 5, they were able to find out that hallucinatory experiences were associated with false perception and a lower response criterion on auditory signal detection paradigm and with adverse childhood experiences. However, in hypothesis 1 through 3, hallucinatory experiences were not linked to impaired source memory, dichotic listening, or verbal working memory. Additionally, these tests provided evidence that with these cognitive tasks, data quality from online recruitment is equal to that of collected in the lab. Now, this study provides strong evidence that hallucinatory experiences are associated with performance on the signal detection test, although with a small effect size. They also found evidence for the contribution of adverse childhood experiences to hallucinatory experiences. In this case, dichotic listening meta-analytical evidence supports the existence of a reduced right ear advantage and poorer performance on the focused or forced attention conditions in schizophrenia patients with hallucinations. The authors believe this study to be accurate, but they also believe that further research on the topic of hallucinations needs to happen in order to fully understand the inner workings of hallucinates and hallucinations in general. Now, they also believe that this is accurate because of their large sample size compared to previous studies. This article answers part of my question because it basically answers the how and how hallucinations can occur in many different people in the population. And it also goes into how hallucinations can happen depending on some of the actions you were doing or what you might be listening to at the time. Now, the next study I'm going to go into is the brain-mind states. Sorry. Um, Now, this study goes into investigating thoughts, hallucinations using experience sampling, home-based sleep-wake monitoring, and formal analysis of psychological data. Now, they decided to study this because they found that the exclusion of thinking from recent studies of sleep and station has hindered a full appreciation of how cognitive activity differs across the states of waking and sleeping. Now, this study goes into basically different types of hallucinations, really, and the sleeping methods. But then the way they went about this was using longitudinal and naturalistic approaches to be able to find endogenous imagery, which is hallucinations, internal deliberation, thoughts across waking, sleep onset, non-REM sleep, and REM sleep. Now, the subjects were instructed to describe in detail their foregoing experiences when caged or awakened, including where they thought they were, who else was present, and what they were thinking of doing, perceiving, feeling, or even just thinking about in general, really. Each of the 1,576 transcribed reports was scored for the presence of thoughts, hallucinations, and images. Hallucinations, as opposed to images, were scored when the endogenous sensations were experienced as realistic, akin to perception. Their scoring system allowed 5 categories: thoughts, hallucinations, images, thought images, and hallucination image. When 2 or more non-congruent events of the same mentation type occurred, a report was given a multiple occurrence score for this mentation type. Sorry. Multiple occurrences of hallucination or images were scored when 2 or more hallucinations or images respectively occurred successfully. The test of variances in these variables across the states were carried out on per subject basis using repeated measures, analysis of variance, or ANOVA, and a pairwise contrast analysis. Now to discuss some of the results. The prevalence of both thoughts and hallucinations differed significantly across the states of active wake, quiet wake, sleep onset, non-REM sleep, and REM sleep, as you see in this figure. Moreover, the prevalence of thoughts and prevaletion of hallucinations were strongly inversely related across these states. The overall difference in prevalence of thoughts across the states were highly significant. Now, for a subset of reports that contained thoughts and for the subset of reports that contained hallucinations, they identified the occurrence of multiple events. The patterns of multiple occurrences across the 3 sleep stages differed for reports with thoughts and reports with hallucinations, as you can see in this figure. In contrast, the percentage of reports with hallucinations that contained multiple occurrences varied significantly across the sleep onset, non-REM sleep, and REM sleep. In summary, sleep hallucination was strongly dependent on sleep state, increasing from sleep onset through non-REM sleep to REM sleep. Several processes underlying the formation of the 2 mentation categories and the activity of these processes varies differentially across states of waking and sleep. They reported a progressive decrease in thoughts, but a dramatic increase in hallucinations. Hallucinatory experiences were found to be reported much more frequently from REM than from non-REM sleep. The author's thoughts on their study are that there are still many unknowns, and they describe some of the probabilities or meanings of certain occurrences in the brain. However, they believe that these questions can be answered by future researchers, and they give tips or different methods for these future researchers. And they also give different hypotheses that they have right now for things that they couldn't figure out, in order for future researchers to have a head start, really. Now, this relates to my question because the study delves deep into when hallucinations can occur, especially when it comes to sleep and how much it can make you get in a sense, like how much of a hallucination you can get, either out of it or in the sleep. It also connects dreams with hallucinations, which I never really considered to be a type of hallucination. Now, overall, between these 2 studies, there's a great consensus that there needs to be more research into hallucinations. And as technology and more methods arise with studying hallucinations, it'll be much easier to find the root cause and go more in depth as to why hallucination occurs in people with schizophrenia, psychiatric disorders, or just people in general. These are my sources, and thank you.